The signal came on a Tuesday morning. Deep in the asteroid belt, Earth's listening station picked up something strange. Numbers, patterns, mathematics that any intelligent species would understand. The message repeated every 30 seconds, broadcasting across multiple frequencies. Lieutenant Jiho stared at his screen in the control room. He was young, fresh from the academy, and he had never seen anything like this. His hands shook as he decoded the message. Star maps, casualty numbers, a desperate plea for help. "Sir, you need to see this," he called to his superior. Within hours, the message reached Admiral Tae Yang at Earth Defense Command. He sat in his office, gray hair and tired eyes showing his 50 years of military service. He had fought in the water wars, survived the Mars uprising, and built Earth's first real space navy. Now he was looking at proof that humanity was not alone in the universe. "It could be a trap," his second officer said. "It could be," Tae Yang agreed. "But if it's real, someone out there is dying." And they asked for help. He made the decision quickly. 3 ships would respond. Not the whole fleet, but enough to handle trouble. Enough to help if help was really needed. Captain Hana got the call while drilling her crew on the strike cruiser Indomitable. She was in her 30s, tough as steel, with short black hair and scars on her hands from years of combat training. When the Mars colonies rebelled, she had been there. She knew what war looked like. "Pack for a long trip," she told her crew. "We're making first contact, maybe." The 3 human warships traveled for 2 weeks. They followed the coordinates from the message, jumping through faster-than-light space, always alert for danger. The ships were not pretty. They were built for war, thick armor, heavy weapons, and engines that could run for months. Earth had learned the hard way that pretty ships died fast. They arrived at the meeting point, an empty system between stars. Nothing showed on the sensors at first. Then slowly, a ship appeared. It was damaged badly. Holes in the hull, systems flickering, barely staying together. "Unknown vessel, this is Captain Hana of Earth. We received your signal. Do you need assistance?" The reply came through in broken translation software. The voice was female, scared, exhausted. "This is Ambassador Kira 7 of the Galactic Council. Thank the stars. We thought no one would come." Kira 7 was not human. She was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large eyes that could see colors humans could not. Her species communicated partially through telepathy, feeling the emotions of others around them. When she came aboard the Indomitable, she immediately felt something wrong with these humans. Their minds were loud, aggressive, full of violence that had been trained and controlled but never eliminated. These were predators. These were killers. She felt fear crawl up her spine, but she had no choice. She needed them. In the meeting room, Kira 7 explained everything. The Galactic Council controlled thousands of star systems. Hundreds of species lived in peace under their protection. Most of them came from gentle worlds, low gravity, mild weather, and few predators. They had evolved past violence thousands of years ago. Then the Valkyrin came. The Valkyrin were insects, giant, intelligent, and controlled by a hive mind. They came from the edge of the galaxy, breeding fast and attacking without warning. They wanted only to expand, to consume, to grow. They did not negotiate. They did not stop. 17 worlds have fallen silent, Kira 7 said, her voice shaking. Our military cannot stop them. We were not built for this kind of war. We have peacekeepers, not soldiers. We have never faced an enemy that wants total extermination. Admiral Tae Yang listened carefully. He asked questions. How many Valkyrin? What weapons did they use? How did they fight? Kira 7 answered everything, showing videos of the battles. The Council fleets tried to hold defensive positions. The Valkyrin swarmed them with numbers. The Council retreated to minimize casualties. The Valkyrin pursued and destroyed them anyway. Finally, Tae Yang sat back in his chair. He looked at Captain Hana. She nodded slowly. They both understood. Ambassador, Tae Yang said carefully, let me understand this correctly. Across thousands of worlds with hundreds of species, no one in your council knows how to fight a real war. Kira 7 felt shame through the telepathic link. We thought we had evolved past such things. You forgot how to kill, Hana said flatly. You forgot that sometimes the only way to stop a killer is to be a better killer. The words hung in the air. Kira 7 wanted to argue to defend her people's choices, but she had seen the battle reports. She had watched her own delegation massacred on Talaxis Prime. She knew the truth. Will you help us? She asked quietly. Tae Yang stood and walked to the window. Outside, stars shone in the darkness. Somewhere out there, Earth waited. His home, his responsibility. "I need to speak with Earth Command," he said. "This is not a small decision. But I will tell you this, Ambassador. If the Valkyrin can conquer your entire council, eventually they will find Earth. Better to fight them now with allies than later, alone." The message was sent back to Earth. It took 3 days for the reply. During that time, Kira 7 stayed on the Indomitable. She watched the human crew work. They trained constantly, combat drills, weapons practice, emergency procedures. Every day they prepared for disasters that might never happen. She saw Lieutenant Ji-Ho running computer simulations. Not just battles, but defeats. He practiced dying over and over, learning from each failure. She saw Captain Hana inspecting weapons personally. The captain showed her a sidearm, a small pistol. "I have killed 17 people with this weapon," Hana said calmly. "I remember all their faces. This is what war means, Ambassador. It means carrying the dead with you forever." Kira 7 felt sick, but she also felt something else. Hope. Because these humans understood war in a way her people never would. The reply from Earth came. Taiyang called Kira 7 to the bridge. His face was serious but determined. "The decision is made," he said. "Earth will mobilize. We will send our fleet to help the Council. Not because we are altruistic, not because we are heroes, but because the Valkyrin are a threat to everyone, including us." "How long?" Kira 7 asked. 72 hours. "The fleet is already gathering." Kira 7 felt tears in her eyes. "Thank you." "Do not thank us yet," Taiyang said quietly. "You are about to see what Deathworlders can do when we go to war. I am not sure you will like it." The 3 human ships turned toward Earth. Kira 7 went with them. When they arrived, she stood on the bridge and looked out at humanity's home system. Her breath caught in her throat. The fleet was already assembled. 42 warships hung in formation around Earth. They were massive, covered in weapons, armored like fortresses. These were not exploration vessels. These were not science ships. These were instruments of death, built by a species that had learned to kill over millions of years of evolution. "This is our fleet," Taiyang said. "This is what we built while learning to survive on a world that tried to kill us every single day." Kira 7 felt 2 emotions at once. Relief because this fleet might actually save her people, and fear because she had just invited monsters to fight monsters. She hoped the galaxy would survive what came next. The Deathworlders were coming to war, and the galaxy would never be the same. The mobilization happened faster than Kira 7 thought possible. Within 72 hours, 42 warships prepared for departure. 30,000 combat personnel boarded vessels. Supply ships loaded ammunition, food, medical supplies, and spare parts. Everything moved with military precision. Kira 7 watched from Admiral Taiyang's flagship, the Defender. The massive dreadnought served as command center for the entire fleet. Its bridge was busy with officers coordinating movements, checking systems, and running final tests. "This is incredible," she said to Taiyang. "My people would need months to organize something like this." The Admiral did not smile. "We have practiced this many times. Every human military unit drills for rapid deployment. We learned the hard way that speed wins wars." Among the ships was the Indomitable, Captain Hana's cruiser. She stood in her quarters packing her personal gear. Her second officer knocked and entered. "Everyone is ready, Captain." "All systems check out," Hana nodded. She picked up her sidearm, the one she had shown Kira 7. 17 people. She remembered them all. If this mission went badly, that number would grow. She holstered the weapon and headed to the bridge. On the troop transport vessel Iron Wind, Sergeant Bora checked her squad's equipment. She was in her late 20s, short and muscular, with a face that showed no emotion. She grew up in the Seoul Underground, the massive city built after the oceans rose and drowned the coasts. Life there taught her to be tough. "Listen up," she told her Marines. "This is first contact with hostile aliens. That means we do not know what to expect. Stay alert. Trust your training. Watch each other's backs. And remember, we bring everyone home." Her squad was 20 strong. Young men and women who volunteered for the most dangerous assignments. They nodded silently, faces serious. They knew what war meant. Earth's history was written in blood. Dr. Sung Min worked in the medical bay of the Defender. He was a tall man in his 40s with gentle eyes and careful hands. He was not a soldier. He was a scientist, a xenobiologist who studied alien life. The military recruited him specifically for this mission. "Doctor," "We need you to examine these samples," an assistant said, bringing him data on Valkyran biology that the Council had provided. Sungmin studied the information carefully. The Valkyran were insectoid, with tough exoskeletons and redundant organs. They were hard to kill, but everything had weaknesses. He began analyzing their nervous system, looking for vulnerabilities. In the fighter bay, Commander Dal inspected his craft. The Raptor was an experimental fighter, fast and deadly. Dal was in his early 30s with scarred hands from years as a test pilot. He had crashed 3 times and walked away each time. His crew said he was either lucky or too stubborn to die. "Sir, all fighters are ready for launch," his wing leader reported. Dal patted the Raptor's hull. "Good. We are going to need every advantage we can get." The fleet departed Earth orbit in formation. 42 warships jumped to faster-than-light speed together, heading toward Council space. The journey would take 2 weeks. During the trip, Admiral Taeyang ordered joint training exercises with Council forces. Several Council ships joined the fleet to observe and coordinate. What happened next shocked both sides. The first exercise was a simple combat simulation. A Council destroyer squared off against a human cruiser in a mock battle. The Council ship had impressive shields and elegant weapons. It looked like a work of art. The human cruiser looked like a flying brick. Ugly, thick, covered in armor plates and weapon mounts. The Council destroyer took the first shot, depleting the human ship's shields. The Council captain smiled, expecting surrender. Instead, the human ship accelerated forward, ignoring the damage, and returned fire with everything it had. The barrage overwhelmed the Council destroyer's shields and punched holes through its thin hull. "Simulation over," the computer announced. "Council vessel destroyed." The Council captain stared at his screen in disbelief. "But you lost your shields. Why did you not retreat?" Captain Hana, who commanded the human cruiser, replied calmly. "Shields fail. Armor matters. We build our ships to take damage and keep fighting. That is the difference." The exercises continued. In every scenario, the human tactics were the same. Aggressive, accepting damage to inflict more damage, never retreating. The Council officers watched in growing horror. One simulation ended when Captain Hana deliberately rammed her cruiser into a Council vessel to demonstrate boarding tactics. The Council ship's crew evacuated in panic. The human Marines stormed aboard through the wreckage. "This is insane," a Council admiral said. "You destroyed your own ship." "In a real battle, sometimes you trade your ship to destroy an enemy flagship," Hana explained. "It is basic strategy. Acceptable losses for strategic gain." Kira 7 attended these exercises. She felt the Council officers' shock and disgust through her telepathy. But she also felt the human emotions, determination, calculation, and complete lack of fear. These people had made peace with death long ago. One evening, she sat with Dr. Sungmin in the medical bay. He was working late, analyzing Valkyran biology. "Doctor, may I ask you something?" she said. "Of course, Ambassador. Why are humans so comfortable with violence?" "My people find it disturbing." Sungmin put down his tablet and looked at her. "We are not comfortable with it, Ambassador. We simply understand it. Earth is what you call a death world. High gravity, extreme weather, thousands of predators, diseases, natural disasters. For millions of years, everything on our planet tried to kill us. We learned to fight back or die." "But you are civilized now," Kira 7 said. "Surely you can move past such things." "Can we?" Sungmin asked quietly. "Ambassador, humans fought each other for thousands of years. War after war. We built weapons that could destroy our entire world. We came close to extinction several times. That history does not disappear just because we want it to. It lives in us. In our instincts. In our training." He gestured to the data on his screen. "I am creating biological weapons right now. Poisons that will kill Valkyran by the thousands. Does that make me a monster? Maybe. But if I do not do it, your people will be exterminated. Sometimes there are no good choices." Kira 7 felt his guilt and determination mixing together. It was a deeply human emotion. Doing terrible things for good reasons and hating yourself for it. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Jiho worked with Council intelligence, building a complete picture of the Valkyran threat. He spent days analyzing battle reports, studying attack patterns, identifying weaknesses. He called a meeting with Admiral Taeyang and the senior officers. "I have completed my analysis," Jiho said, displaying his findings on the main screen. "The Valkyran have several advantages. They reproduce quickly. They accept casualties without hesitation. They never retreat. Their hive mind makes them immune to morale attacks. And their weaknesses? Tae Yang asked. They are predictable. They always attack in waves following the same patterns. They rely on numbers rather than strategy. And most importantly, they have never faced an enemy willing to match their casualty rates. The Council always retreats to preserve life. The Valkyrin adapted to that. Tae Yang nodded slowly. So we need to teach them a lesson. Yes, sir. We need to show them that advancing has a cost. Make them bleed. Make them understand that victory is not guaranteed. Good work, Lieutenant. Start planning our first strike. The fleet neared Council space. As they approached, Kira 7 received updated intelligence from her government. The news was worse than before. 4 more systems had fallen. The Council was collapsing faster than predicted. She brought the news to Tae Yang. He studied the star maps grimly. At this rate, you have 6 months before total collapse, he said. I know, Kira 7 said quietly. The Council is discussing evacuation plans for the core worlds. Then we have no time to waste. We need to hit the Valkyrin hard and fast. The fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Council space. The view made everyone on the bridge go silent. Dozens of worlds burned in the distance. Debris fields stretched for thousands of kilometers. Distress signals filled every communication channel. Captain Hana stood on her bridge staring at the destruction. She had seen war before, but never on this scale. This is what defeat looks like, she said to her officers. This is what happens when you forget how to fight. Sergeant Bo-Ra reviewed the tactical data with her squad. The Valkyrin were everywhere. Billions of them spreading like a disease across the galaxy. Well, she said to her Marines, at least we will have plenty of targets. A few of them laughed. Dark humor was a soldier's way of dealing with fear. Admiral Tae Yang called a final meeting of all ship captains via video conference. We are going to war, he said simply. Our objective is to stop the Valkyrin advance and buy time for the Council to regroup. We will not play defense. We will attack. We will make them pay for every system they take. We will teach them that humans do not surrender. He looked at each captain in turn. Some of us will not come home. That is the nature of war, but we go anyway because it is necessary, because someone has to stand up and fight. Any questions? There were none. Then let us show the galaxy what Deathworlders can do. All ships prepare for combat operations. First target, Corvus 3. We attack in 6 hours. The channel closed. Across the fleet, 30,000 humans prepared for battle. They checked weapons, said prayers, wrote letters home. They did all the things soldiers do before facing death. And Corvus 3 hung in space like a diseased organ. The planet was covered in Valkyrin structures, massive hives, breeding pits, and launch facilities. Intelligence estimated 3 million Valkyrin occupied the surface. Thousands of their bioships orbited above, defending the installation. The Council considered it impossible to attack. Too many defenders, too much firepower. The casualties would be horrific. Admiral Tae Yang looked at the same intelligence and saw an opportunity. This was a major supply depot. Destroy it and 3 invasion corridors would collapse. The Valkyrin would have to divert forces to protect their other facilities. We are not going to occupy it, he explained to his captains. We are going to kill everything we can, destroy everything we can, and leave. Maximum damage, maximum casualties. Teach them that every advance has a price. Captain Hana volunteered to lead the assault. Indomitable was built for this kind of work. Let us go first, Tae Yang nodded. Approved. You will have support from the entire fleet. Go in hard. Do not hold back. Sergeant Bo-Ra gathered her Marines in the drop bay, 20 soldiers in powered armor, carrying enough weapons to fight a small war. Their mission was simple and brutal. Drop to the surface, destroy the primary breeding facility, and get out. This is a suicide mission by normal standards, she told them flatly. We will be surrounded by millions of enemies. Extraction time is measured in hours, not days. But this facility produces warriors for 3 separate invasion fleets. If we destroy it, we save billions of Council citizens. One of her Marines raised his hand. Sergeant, what are our expected casualties? Bo-Ra met his eyes. High, maybe 50%. Maybe more. That is why I am only taking volunteers. Every single Marine stepped forward. She felt pride and sorrow at the same time. These were her people, her squad, and she would probably get some of them killed today. Commander Dal ran final checks on his fighter. The Raptor was ready. His squadron of 12 fighters would provide close air support for the ground troops. It would be dangerous. Valkyrie flyers were fast and numerous, but that was the job. All fighters sound off, he called on the radio. His pilots responded one by one. Young voices, confident voices. Some of them would not come back. Dal knew that. He had led missions before. He knew the cost of war. Dr. Sungmin prepared his biological weapons in the medical bay. The compounds were horrific. Airborne toxins that would dissolve Valkyrie respiratory systems. Genetic disruptors that would prevent breeding. Nerve agents that caused paralysis and slow suffocation. He felt sick preparing them. This was not medicine. This was genocide. But he thought about the 17 fallen council worlds. The billions already dead. Sometimes you had to become a monster to stop monsters. The human fleet dropped from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Corvus system. Immediately, the Valkyrie defenders detected them. Thousands of bioships launched from the planet, swarming toward the humans. Council observers watched from their vessels, expecting the humans to establish defensive positions. Instead, the human fleet accelerated forward, charging directly at the enemy. "What are they doing?" a council admiral asked in shock. Kira 7, watching from the defender's bridge, felt the human emotions. No fear, no hesitation, only cold determination and controlled rage. "They are doing what they came here to do," she said quietly. "They are hunting." The battle began at extreme range. Human missiles traveling at nearly the speed of light arrived before the Valkyrie could react. Dozens of bioships simply ceased to exist, vaporized by kinetic impacts. The Valkyrie adapted quickly. They dispersed their formation, making themselves harder to target. It did not matter. The humans had planned for this. Captain Hana's Indomitable led the charge, weapons blazing continuously. Energy beams cut through Valkyrie ships. Railguns punched holes through their organic hulls. Missile pods launched salvo after salvo. The Valkyrie swarmed her ship, attacking from all sides. Indomitable's shields flared and failed. Impacts hammered the hull. Damage reports flooded in from every section. "Hull breaches on decks 7 and 12, her tactical officer reported. "Shield generators offline. Casualties in engineering. Keep firing," Hana ordered calmly. "All weapons. Do not stop until we are dead or they are." The Indomitable kept fighting. Its armor was thick, its systems redundant. It was built to absorb punishment that would destroy council ships. It took damage and kept shooting. The breakthrough came after 20 minutes of brutal combat. Hana's ship, followed by 11 others, smashed through the Valkyrie defensive line. They created a corridor. Admiral Taeyang immediately committed his reserves, pouring ships through the gap. "Drop teams. You are cleared for surface assault," Taeyang ordered. Sergeant Bora's drop pod launched from the Iron Wind. 20 pods fell toward the planet like meteors, surrounded by defensive fire. 3 exploded before reaching atmosphere. 17 Marines died in seconds. Bora's pod survived. It crashed into the breeding complex at terminal velocity, punching through layers of organic material. She kicked open the door and emerged into hell. Valkyrie warriors swarmed from every direction. They were huge, covered in chitin armor, with mandibles that could tear through steel. They made clicking sounds as they attacked, communicating through the hive mind. Bora opened fire. Her assault rifle spat armor-piercing rounds at full automatic. The nearest warriors fell, their bodies torn apart. But more kept coming. Always more. "Form defensive perimeter," she shouted. Overlapping fields of fire. Her surviving Marines formed a circle, weapons facing outward. They fired continuously, creating a wall of lead and energy. Valkyrie warriors died by the hundreds, but thousands more took their place. "We need air support," one Marine called out. Commander Dal heard the call from his fighter. "On the way." "Raptor Squadron, follow me in." His squadron dove through the atmosphere at speeds that should have torn their craft apart. Valkyrie flyers tried to intercept them. Dal shot down 3 without slowing. The rest of his squadron cleared a path. They reached Bora's position and unleashed everything. Missiles turned the surrounding area into fire and smoke. Energy weapons carved through the Valkyrie swarm. The pressure on the Marines eased for a moment. "Thanks for the help," Bora called on the radio. "Do not thank me yet," Dal replied. "We can only stay for 3 minutes before running out of ammunition. Make them count." Bora led her squad forward, fighting toward the breeding chambers. They used everything they had. Flamethrowers turned corridors into ovens. Grenades shattered Valkyrie formations. When their rifles ran dry, they used pistols. When those ran empty, they used knives. They reached the main chamber. It was enormous, filled with thousands of eggs and larvae. This was the heart of Valkyran reproduction on this world. Destroy it and the mission succeeded. Plant the charges, Bora ordered. Her Marines set demolition charges throughout the chamber. The Valkyran realized what was happening. Warriors poured in from every entrance. The fighting became desperate, hand-to-hand in some places. One Marine fell, torn apart by Valkyran mandibles. Then another, and another. Charges armed, Bora reported. Requesting extraction. Negative, Admiral Taeyang's voice came through. Valkyran air defense is too heavy. We cannot land dropships. Bora looked at her remaining Marines. 9 left out of 20. They were surrounded by thousands of enemies. She made the only decision she could. Sir, requesting orbital strike on my position. Take out the air defenses. We will hold until then. There was silence on the channel. Then Taeyang spoke quietly. Confirmed. Strike inbound. You have 4 minutes. Hold the line, Sergeant. Bora turned to her squad. 4 minutes. We hold for 4 minutes. Then extraction comes. They knew it was probably a lie. 4 minutes was forever in combat. But they nodded anyway. They would hold because that was what Marines did. The longest 4 minutes of their lives began. They formed a circle, backs together, firing outward. Ammunition counters dropped towards 0. More Marines fell. 6 left, then 5. Then 4. Bora's rifle clicked empty. She drew her pistol. Still the Valkyran came. She fired until that was empty too. Then she pulled out her knife. Was an honor serving with you, she told her remaining Marines. Then the world exploded in light and thunder. Orbital strikes hammered the area, vaporizing the Valkyran air defenses. The ground shook. The ceiling collapsed. Bora's armor protected her from the worst of it. Through the smoke and fire, she heard the most beautiful sound in the world. The roar of dropship engines. Extraction inbound. Move, move, move. Bora and her 3 surviving Marines ran through the chaos. The dropship landed in the cleared zone, ramped down, weapons firing. They threw themselves aboard. The ship lifted immediately, climbing through fire and destruction. Behind them, the demolition charges detonated. The breeding complex collapsed in a massive explosion. 3 million Valkyran larvae died in an instant. Bora looked at her squad. 4 survivors out of 20. She felt empty, hollow. But the mission succeeded. That had to be enough. In orbit, Admiral Taeyang ordered the final phase. All ships commence planetary bombardment. Everything we have. Leave nothing alive. The human fleet opened fire. Kinetic weapons struck like the fist of an angry god. Fusion warheads ignited firestorms. Dr. Sung Min's biological weapons saturated the atmosphere, spreading death invisible and inevitable. Kira 7 Watt. News of Corvus 3 spread across the galaxy like wildfire. For the first time since the invasion began, the Valkyran advance stopped. They consolidated their positions, adapted their tactics, and prepared for enemies who actually fought back. The Council held emergency sessions. Some members celebrated the victory. Others expressed horror at the methods used. The debate became heated. They committed genocide on that planet, one council member accused. Billions died. Billions of Valkyran who were preparing to kill trillions of us, another replied. The humans did what we could not. They saved us. Ambassador Kira 7 attended these sessions. She spoke carefully, trying to help her people understand. The humans fight differently than us. They accept casualties. They use terrible weapons. But they are winning. Can we afford to reject help because we dislike the methods? The debate continued. Meanwhile, Admiral Taeyang planned the next phase of operations. He met with the Council Military Command to discuss strategy. The Council wants us to reinforce defensive positions. A Council Admiral said, "Help us hold the line." Taeyang shook his head. Defense lets the Valkyran choose when and where to attack. We need to go on the offensive. Hit them everywhere at once. Make them defend their territory instead of taking ours. That will require significant casualties, the Council Admiral said nervously. War requires casualties. Taeyang replied bluntly. The question is, do you want to lose soldiers defending or lose civilians if we fail? I choose to spend military lives to save civilian ones. That is what militaries are for. The Council eventually agreed to his plan. The human fleet would conduct offensive operations across multiple systems. Strike groups would attack simultaneously, forcing the Valkyran to spread their forces thin. Lieutenant Jiho worked in the intelligence center, analyzing Valkyran communications. He noticed something interesting. The hive mind used organic ships with biological communication systems. Maybe those systems could be disrupted. He called Dr. Sung-min. Doctor, can you create a weapon that attacks Valkyrin neural tissue? Sung-min studied the request. Possibly. If we can create a virus that affects their collective consciousness, it might disrupt their coordination. Let me work on it. Days later, he had a prototype, a weapon that used electromagnetic pulses to induce seizures in Valkyrin neural tissue. It was untested, experimental, and possibly ineffective. But it was worth trying. Captain Hana volunteered to test it. Indomitable is already damaged. If this thing fails catastrophically, better it happens to us than a pristine vessel. The test target was a Valkyrin patrol fleet in the Helios sector. 12 bioships operating in perfect coordination. Hana's cruiser approached carefully, staying at maximum weapons range. Lieutenant Jiho, activate the disruptor on my mark, she ordered. The engagement began normally. Indomitable fired. The Valkyrin returned fire, their movements coordinated and precise. Then Jiho activated the prototype weapon. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Valkyrin ships suddenly lost formation. They collided with each other. Some fired on their own forces. Others spun out of control, unable to navigate. It is working, Jiho reported excitedly. The hive mind is fragmenting. They are experiencing individual consciousness for the first time, and they do not know how to handle it. Hana did not waste the opportunity. All weapons fire at will. Destroy them while they are confused. The Indomitable systematically destroyed the Valkyrin fleet. Not a single enemy ship escaped. When it was over, Hana sent her report back to Admiral Tae Yang. The weapon works. Recommend immediate production and fleet-wide deployment. The campaign expanded. Human strike groups attacked across a dozen systems. Each group operated independently, using different tactics to keep the Valkyrin off balance. Sergeant Bora, recovered from her wounds, led commando raids on resource worlds. Her new squad of 15 Marines specialized in sabotage. They dropped onto Valkyrin supply planets, destroyed breeding facilities, and disappeared before reinforcements arrived. On one mission, they infiltrated a genetics laboratory where the Valkyrin were developing new warrior strains. Bora planted demolition charges while her squad held the perimeter. Charges set, she reported. 2 minutes to detonation. They extracted under fire, running through corridors filled with Valkyrin warriors. 1 Marine fell. Bora grabbed his body. They never left anyone behind, alive or dead. The extraction ship waited at the landing zone, engines hot. They threw themselves aboard. The ship lifted just as the charges detonated, destroying months of Valkyrin genetic research. Bora looked at her squad. 14 left now. Every mission cost lives. She wondered how many more would die before this war ended. Commander Dal hunted Valkyrin supply convoys. His fighter squadron specialized in ambush tactics. They would hide in asteroid fields, waiting for supply ships to pass. Then they would strike without warning, destroying the convoys before escorts could respond. Contact, his sensor officer called. 20 supply ships escorted by 6 warships. Perfect odds, Dal said with dark humor. All fighters attack pattern Delta. Hit the escorts first. His squadron emerged from hiding, missiles already launching. The Valkyrin escorts never had a chance. They died in the first salvo. Then the fighters turned on the supply ships, defenseless and slow. It was slaughter, not combat. Dal felt no satisfaction. This was simply work that needed doing. Every supply ship destroyed was food and ammunition that would not reach Valkyrin invasion forces. The Raptor took a hit during extraction. Warning lights blazed across Dal's cockpit. The fighter was barely holding together, but it would fly. It always did. Dal patted the console like an old friend. The campaign continued for weeks. The Valkyrin adapted to human tactics, but slowly. They increased patrols, reinforced supply lines, built more defensive positions. But they were reacting now instead of attacking. The initiative had shifted. Then Lieutenant Jiho made a critical discovery. He was analyzing captured Valkyrin communications when he noticed something unusual. Certain signals originated from a single source, a location the Valkyrin protected heavily. He called Admiral Tae Yang immediately. Sir, I think I found their command structure. The hive mind is not truly distributed. There are queens coordinating everything from a central location. Where? Tae Yang demanded. I cannot pinpoint it yet. The signals are routed through multiple relays. But if we could trace them back to the source, we could cut the head off the snake. Tae Yang understood immediately. Find it. Whatever resources you need, you have. Jiho worked for days, barely sleeping. He traced signal paths, analyzed communication patterns, and built a network map of Valkyran command structure. Finally, he had it. The source is here, he said, pointing to a star system labeled only as X7749. A nebula, dense enough to hide a planet. The homeworld, Taeyang said quietly. They are coordinating everything from their homeworld. Captain Hana was called to the Admiral's office. He showed her the intelligence. This is our target, he said. Destroy the Queens and the entire Valkyran war machine collapses. What about defenses? She asked. We do not know. Probably everything they have. This will be the largest battle of the war. Maybe the last one. Hana nodded slowly. When do we leave? As soon as the Council gives authorization. This is genocide we are talking about. Destroying their homeworld. Their queens. Their entire species, essentially. Some Council members will oppose it. The Council debate was fierce. Ambassador Kira 7 argued humanity's case. The Valkyran will never negotiate. They will never stop. They want only expansion and consumption. If we do not end this now completely, they will regroup and attack again. How many more Council worlds must fall before we act? One Council member stood. But to destroy their homeworld? To kill their queens? That is extinction. How are we different from them if we do this? Kira 7 felt the weight of the decision. We are different because we offered peace. We tried diplomacy. They responded with extermination. Sometimes survival requires terrible choices. The humans understand this. They live with it every day. The vote was close, but authorization passed. Admiral Taeyang gathered every ship, every soldier, every weapon. This would be the final battle. 200 vessels assembled for the assault. Human ships and Council forces together, the largest military force the galaxy had ever seen. The night before departure, Sergeant Bo-Ra sat with her squad in the barracks. They did not speak much. What was there to say? Some of them would die tomorrow. Maybe all of them. But the job had to be done. Commander Dal checked the Raptor one last time. The fighter was held together with spare parts and hope. But it would fly. One more mission. Maybe the last one. Dr. Sungmin prepared emergency medical supplies. Casualties would be massive. He would do what he could to save lives. But he knew it would not be enough. It never was. Lieutenant Jiho uploaded the final navigation data to every ship. The path through the nebula, the location of the homeworld. This was his discovery. His responsibility. Captain Hana stood on the bridge of Indomitable looking at her crew. They had been through hell together. They would go through it one more time. Admiral Taeyang addressed the fleet one final time. Tomorrow we end this war. We go to the Valkyran homeworld. We destroy their command structure. Many of us will not return. But the galaxy will be safe. Our sacrifice will mean something. That is all any soldier can ask, he paused. You are the best of humanity. You are the best of the Council. You are why the fleet entered the nebula in tight formation. 200 ships moving through clouds of gas and dust. Sensors barely worked. Communication became difficult. Every captain relied on instruments and trust. The Valkyran knew their territory was compromised. Ambushes began immediately. Bioships emerged from the clouds, struck and disappeared. The fleet lost 6 vessels in the first day. 12 more were damaged. Admiral Taeyang refused to slow down, maintain speed. They want to bleed us before we reach the homeworld. We push through. Captain Hana's Indomitable took several hits during one ambush. Her ship was barely holding together now. Hull breaches sealed with emergency patches. Systems running on backup power. But it kept moving. How bad is it? She asked her engineer. Bad, Captain. One more major hit and we will lose structural integrity. Hana nodded. Then we better not get hit. After 3 days of fighting through the nebula, the fleet emerged into clear space. And there it was. The Valkyran homeworld. The planet was massive, covered in organic structures. But more terrifying were the defenses. Thousands of bioships orbited in layers. Ground weapons covered every approach. Orbital platforms bristled with weapons. It was a fortress. A Council admiral looked at the tactical display in horror. This is impossible. We cannot break through those defenses. Taeyang studied the displays calmly. We are not going around them. We are going through them. Concentrate all firepower on a single point. Create a breach. Captain Hana volunteered immediately. Indomitable will lead the assault. Your ship is barely functional, Taeyang said. Exactly. Better to risk a damaged ship than a healthy one, and my crew knows what to do. Tae-Yang hesitated, then nodded. Approved. You will have 12 ships in support. Break through at the equator. The rest of the fleet will follow. Hana returned to her bridge. Her crew looked at her silently. They knew what this mission meant. Most of them would not survive. All hands, this is the captain, she said over the intercom. We are going in first. It will be rough. Casualties will be heavy, but if we succeed, we end this war today. It has been an honor serving with you all. The assault began. Indomitable and 12 other ships accelerated toward the planet at maximum speed. Every Valkyran weapon in range opened fire. Space filled with energy beams, projectiles, and biological weapons. Shields flared and failed immediately. Impacts hammered the hulls. One ship exploded, vaporized by concentrated fire. Another lost power and drifted away. A third took a direct hit to the reactor and detonated. Indomitable kept going. Hana's bridge lost multiple consoles. Fire suppression systems engaged throughout the ship. Casualty reports flooded in. Keep firing, she ordered. All weapons. Do not stop. The human ships tore through the first defensive layer. 6 vessels remained. They pressed forward into the second layer. 5 remained. Then 4. Finally, they broke through to orbit. Admiral Tae-Yang immediately committed his reserves. Ships poured through the gap, overwhelming the Valkyran defenders. Ground teams, you are clear for deployment, Tae-Yang ordered. Sergeant Bora and her squad were in the first wave. Hundreds of drop pods fell toward the surface, targeting the primary breeding complex. Intelligence said the queens were there. Many pods were destroyed during descent. Bora's survived. It crashed through layers of organic material and buried itself deep in the complex. She kicked open the door. Millions of Valkyran warriors swarmed toward them. This was their home. Their queens. They would defend to the last. Move fast, Bora shouted. Find the queens. Her squad fought through corridors filled with enemies. They used every weapon, every trick, every dirty tactic they knew. Marines fell one by one, but they kept advancing. Commander Dal provided air support. His fighter squadron engaged Valkyran flyers over the breeding complex. The Raptor took hit after hit. Warning lights covered Dal's cockpit. Raptor is critical, his co-pilot said. We need to pull back. Not yet, Dal said. The ground troops need us. He dove into the swarm, firing everything. His squadron followed. They cleared a path through the Valkyran defenses, buying precious minutes for the Marines below. Then the Raptor's engine failed. Dal lost control. The fighter spiraled toward the surface. Eject! Eject! His co-pilot screamed. Dal pulled the handle. The canopy blew off. The ejection seat fired, throwing him clear just before the Raptor hit the ground and exploded. He parachuted into a war zone. Valkyran warriors surrounded his landing site immediately. Dal drew his sidearm and started shooting. He knew he was going to die here, but he would take as many enemies with him as possible. Sergeant Bora heard the call. Pilot down. Grid reference 72 Alpha. That was close to their position. All Marines, change of mission. We extract that pilot. But the Queens, one Marine started. We do not leave anyone behind. Bora snapped. Move. They fought their way to Dal's position. He was still alive, still fighting, surrounded by Valkyran bodies. Bora's squad hit the enemy from behind, breaking the encirclement. Commander, can you walk? She asked. Dal nodded, bleeding from multiple wounds. Thanks for the rescue. Thank me later. Right now, run. Meanwhile, other Marine units reached the breeding chambers. They found enormous queens, each one controlling millions of drones across the galaxy. Dr. Sungmin confirmed via remote sensors. These were the targets. The Marines set demolition charges throughout the complex. The Valkyran defense became desperate. They knew what was happening. Protect the queens or die as a species. The fighting reached a level of intensity that shocked even the humans. Valkyran warriors threw themselves at the Marines without fear, without hesitation. Marines died buying time for the charges to arm. Finally, the charges detonated. The complex collapsed. Queens died, and across orbital space, observers watched as the Valkyran forces suddenly lost coordination. Ships stopped moving in formation. Warriors became confused. The hive mind was fragmenting, but there were more complexes. More queens. Admiral Tae-Yang committed all remaining forces to simultaneous assaults. Every Marine, every pilot, every ship. This was the final push. Captain Hana's Indomitable, barely spaceworthy, continued to provide orbital fire support. Then a Valkyrin orbital platform locked weapons on a troop transport filled with Marines. Hana made her decision in seconds. "Helm, intercept course. Full speed." "Captain, we cannot survive a collision," her officer started. "I know. All hands abandon ship. That is an order." Her crew evacuated to escape pods. Hana remained at the helm, guiding her dying ship toward the enemy platform. At the last second, she engaged maximum thrust. Indomitable struck the platform at relativistic velocity. Both exploded in a flash of released energy. The troop transport survived, carrying hundreds of Marines to safety. Lieutenant Jiho watched from the Defender's bridge as more Queens died. Each death weakened the collective consciousness. When 70% were eliminated, the Valkyrin forces collapsed completely. Drones became confused individuals. Warriors stopped fighting. Ships drifted powerlessly. "Admiral, the hive mind has shattered," he reported. Taeyang stared at the tactical display. "Victory. But at what cost?" "All ships, immediate ceasefire," he ordered. "The battle is won." Across the fleet, soldiers struggled to stop fighting. Combat rage and grief made it difficult. But discipline held. The killing stopped. The final casualty report was staggering. 48 human ships destroyed. 12,000 personnel killed. 20,000 wounded. Council forces suffered similar losses. The Valkyrin civilization was functionally destroyed. Sergeant Bora was evacuated from the surface with critical injuries. In the medical bay, Dr. Sungmin treated her wounds and told her about Captain Hana's sacrifice. Bora broke down completely. All the suppressed grief, trauma, and horror overwhelmed her. Sungmin stayed with her through the night. He understood. He felt the same weight. They had won. But the cost was almost more than they could bear. Ambassador Kira 7 stood on the command deck, feeling the psychic aftermath through her telepathy. Billions of confused, frightened Valkyrin minds where once existed unified purpose. She turned to Admiral Taeyang. Was this justice or atrocity? The Admiral looked at her with tired eyes. "I do not know. Maybe both, maybe neither. We did what was necessary. Whether that makes us heroes or monsters, history will decide. And you? How do you live with it?" "We do not live with it," Taeyang said quietly. "We carry it. Every life lost. Every decision made. We carry it all until we die. That is the price of being from a death world. That is the price of survival." The fleet began withdrawal operations, collecting the dead, treating the wounded, salvaging damaged ships. The work would take weeks. The war was over. The galaxy was safe, but nothing would ever be the same. The Deathworlders had come to war. They had fought with terrible efficiency and brutal tactics. They had saved galactic civilization, and they had done it at a cost that would haunt them forever. Sergeant Bora looked out the medical bay window at the stars. She thought about her fallen squad members. She thought about Captain Hana. She thought about Commander Dahl, who survived against all odds. They had done their duty. They had protected the innocent. They had won, but victory felt hollow when purchased with so much blood. Dr. Sungmin sat in his lab, looking at samples of Valkyrin biology. He would spend years helping rehabilitate,